Okay, friends, in just a minute, we are going to begin our service for Mr. Leonard Drucker of blessed memory. Just a gentle reminder before we begin, if anybody has a cell phone or any noise-making device of any kind, if you could take a moment to turn on silent, not to disturb the sacred funeral ceremony. Officiating our service today is Rabbi Eitan Allen and Rabbi Eli Turin. The rabbi has already, together with the family, done the ancient act of Kriya. And just another last gentle reminder to turn our cell phones off. We're going to wait just a couple seconds for some more people, and then we're going to begin.
Good morning, everybody. I want to thank you all for being here, for coming out on an early Friday morning. Shabbos is fast approaching. Leonard Drucker was a man who loved his Jewish spirit, his Jewish soul, and he honored the Sabbath. And we will as well, by trying not to make the service here too long, but at the moment we have a special mitzvah, which is to give honor and love and respect to the soul and the life of Leonard Drucker, Label Ben David. So once again, thank you all for being here. Thank you for the families. And thank you for the members of the Chicago Jewish Funerals community. We'll begin with readings of the Psalms, both in Hebrew and English, for us to reflect on and to open our hearts at this moment. King David says, Ashrei Yisha Shalo halach ba'atzas rishayim, u'b'derech hatayim lo amad, u'b'moshav leitzim lo yashav. Ki m'toras Adonai chefso b'toraso yega yomam v'layla, v'yaka eitz shasul al palgei mayim, asher piryo v'yitin be'ito v'aleyu lo yibol, v'chol asher yaseh yatzliach, lo chen harishayim, ki im kamotz asher titfenu ruach, al ken lo yokumu rishayim b'mishpat, v'chatoim ba'adas tzadikim, ki yodei Adonai derech tzadikim v'derech rishayim toved. Happy is the one who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, or does not stand in the path of the sinners, who does not sit among the jeering cynics. Instead, the Lord's teaching on all his desires as he contemplates the teaching day and night. He is like a tree planted on streams of water, yielding fruit in its season. Its leaves never wither. All produce thrives, not so the wicked. They are like chaff blown away by the wind. Therefore the wicked will not enjoy judgment, nor the sinners among the righteous crowd. For the Lord cares for the way of the righteous, and the way of the wicked will be lost forever. David continues, Mizmor LeDavid Adonai Roi Lo Echsar, Binosh Desha Yarbi Tseini Amei Menuchos Yenahaleni, Nafshe Yeshovev Yancheni B'Maglei Tzedek Laman Shemo, Gam Ki Elech B'Gates Al Mavas Lo Yirara Ki Ata Yimadi, Shiftecha Mishantecha Hema Yinachamuni, Taroch Lefanai Shochan Neged Sorarai, Dishanta B'Shem and Roshi Kosu Revaya, Ach Tov V'Chesed Yerdefuni Kol Yemei Chayai, V'Shavti Yeveis Adonai La'orech Yamim. Mizmor LeDavid, a psalm of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I lack for nothing. He lets me lie down in green pastures, he leads me beside still waters. He refreshes my soul, guiding me along the right path for the sake of his name. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff encourage me. You set a table before me in the face of my foes. You anoint my head with oil, my cup brims over. May only goodness and kindness follow me all the days of my life. Let me live in the Lord's house forever. Our dear Lenny, as I said, loved his family, loved people, loved the Jewish people, loved life, and was a frequent shul goer for much of his life, all around, from B'nai Ruvain to Anshe Lubavitch, to East Rogers Park, to West Rogers Park, to Yeshurun, to the Kollel, and all over, or Menorah, many places I'm probably leaving out. He was a true shul hopper. He loved to get to know rabbis. He loved to get to know people. One of the wonderful rabbanim that he's gotten to know over the years is Rabbi Turin from Beis Mashiach, and it's an honor to call him now to say some words.
Thank you. Actually, I first met Mr. Drucker probably well over 50 years ago. But then we kind of reconnected about, 15 years ago or so, and developed a very deep friendship. I'm going to start off by asking mechila, by asking for forgiveness, not only for anything of the past, which is traditionally what's done, but even for my words that I'm about to say, for my remarks that I'm about to make. I only mean it in the most positive way, and I'm sure that's how he's going to take it. And I would like to ask all of you, especially those that knew him and knew him well, to please, it's only with the utmost respect, admiration, and love that I have for Mr. Drucker, labeled Ben David. Oftentimes, our emotions are kind of mixed. Right now, I really don't know whether to cry or to laugh. That's Mr. Drucker. As I said, I'm going to keep my remarks brief because I can really go on and on and on. As Rabbi Allen just mentioned, he was a shul hopper. He went all over the place. And he really felt a true sense of responsibility. Responsibility not just for himself, not just for his family, but for the entire Jewish community and beyond. He really felt responsible for the world. Really. Whoever knew him, he really wanted to fix the world, and he took himself very seriously, and I think that's one of the many things we should learn from him. He oftentimes would say how he's responsible for this organization and this shul and this happening and that happening, and he meant it. And not everybody was able to appreciate him in that sense. I did, and I do. And we would joke around, and he had a great sense of humor, and I would joke with him a lot. I would say things in jest. I would be sarcastic. And most of the time, he appreciated it. So I'm asking him publicly, mechila, forgiveness for those times that perhaps I was a little bit out of bounds and I shouldn't have said what I said. Much older than me, and I truly respected him. Just a very few anecdotes, because as I said, I could really go on and on, which I won't. We had him over for the Pesach Sdarim, whatever it was, maybe 15 years ago or more. And the first night of Pesach, and then he stayed overnight one of the nights. It was too far to walk. I had my kids walk him, whatever. He stayed on the couch. First night of Pesach, he claimed that he actually saw Eliyahu Hanavi come to our Seder. So we were all excited, and the second night, he didn't. He said, but the first night he said that he saw Eliyahu Hanavi. Now, we all believe that Elijah the prophet, Eliyahu Hanavi, comes to every Pesach Seder. Just most of us don't get to see him. So again, whether Mr. Drucker actually saw him or not, a part of me does believe that he actually did see Eliyahu Hanavi, and that just tells you a little bit about him. And he wasn't embarrassed to share it. Many people, I suppose, that get to see such things don't just share them in public or with their friends. He was not shy in that way. He was not bashful. If he had something to say, he said it. And he really would step up to the plate, and he didn't wait to be invited necessarily or to be asked. If he saw something needed to be done, he went ahead and he did it. And I think we could learn from him. Many of us have inhibitions, and we feel that who am I, and what am I, and how can I and should I, and there are other people more befitting and better, etc., etc. That humility that we sometimes have is misplaced. Mr. Drucker would do things that even if he wasn't great at doing those things, and he wasn't really perfect, but if you got to do something, just do it. Whatever it may be. He loved to sing. He loved to be the chazan. He loved to talk. Those who remember him, the old-time Chicagoans, or probably some of his family members, some of you are too young to remember the good old days in the Sentinel. He really, really got around. And I really think that one of the things we should learn from him is whether or not you feel that you're fit, you're able to do something, if you truly believe in it and you believe that it's the right thing to do and it's the right time to do it, just do it. And, he was the life of the party, and we really, I'd go to his house. I think I'm from the few people, except for the immediate family, that actually got to go to the basement. And so we really, and he appreciated it. And at times, I had to kind of take charge and try to emulate him in this regard and be kind of aggressive. Because if I didn't hear from him for weeks going by and I got concerned, so I would call and no answer, whatever, I'd come to his house and I had to pound on the door until he would yell and say, "Who is it? Go away." And then I would say, "I'm not going away because I'm your friend." And then ultimately he would appreciate it. So whether it was coming to visit him on Purim and laying the Megillah for him late at night on Purim and then again during the day, he appreciated that. So again, if I was too aggressive, I'm sorry, but I know that at the end of the day, I do believe that he appreciated everything that I did for him, and I surely appreciated all the things that he did for me. But I do want to ask again, Mechila, on behalf of myself, my family, and my shul, the congregants of Beis Mashiach, and I just want to conclude with his words that, I would speak to him a lot about Mashiach, and he really, really believed it with his whole heart, and he would say, yes, Mashiach is already here, and we just have to open up our eyes, which is true, and now the world is coming to that realization. And when I would, come assist him with putting on tefillin, whatever it was, and then we would daven, and he would want to daven his way and say his things, and then he would always say, not to please me, not that's because what I say. He's not that kind of person. He would say it because he really felt it. So I want to wish that his neshama should have the real, true aliyah, the elevation. And as he would also say on different yard sites and different things, that this person should be a gute beter, which is the Yiddish, that this soul should be a good advocate. So on behalf of his family and for, as he put it, it's his responsibility, so let him go up there and let him do what he's got to do and take care of the world problems and actually bring us Mashiach immediately, and then we won't have to get together in such occasions, but we'll be able to rejoice when he's going to come back, and he's going to be singing and dancing, and so will the entire world, and may it happen immediately, very speedily in our days. Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi. It's now a great honor and privilege to hear from those who knew him best, from his dear family. We'll begin with Robin, and then we'll hear from the grandkids, from Kip, Daniel, Aaron, Helene, Lexi. Please.
talking like this. Okay. Before I start, I wanted to say thank you to Rabbi Tern because that was the most beautiful thing that I've ever heard anybody say about anybody, especially my father. I know. I remember you from very long ago. Okay. Most of you knew my father when he was older. I want to speak about some memories of him as my dad when I was growing up. My dad had a very big heart. Dad's Hebrew name was Label. It's a Yiddish derivative of Lev, which in Hebrew means heart. Dad was born on March 28th, which was the day my husband David and I were married. He was so sick. He had 102-degree fever, but he refused to be denied the honor of walking me down the aisle, coughing and all. We have the video to prove it. Somehow he had the strength, the heart to dance with me later that night. In fact, he tried to dance the jitterbug, despite the fact that he knew I could not. But he made the best of it. That was his favorite dance with my mother that he taught my mother. My dad had many interests and hobbies. He collected stamps. He loved to garden. And I used to watch him stake his tomatoes and cucumbers and grow roses. We had a rose bush in our backyard on the patio. Dad took food very seriously. He enjoyed barbecuing, and he couldn't understand his two daughters not appreciating a good steak. He always had a great appetite, and he actually took pride in feeding us with his specialties, especially when he cooked for the family on Sunday mornings. He served Spanish omelets when I was little, my mom's favorite, and eggs and potatoes and onions. I could still see him frying them when I was tiny. We laughed when he would ask us to name all the foods by color, a regular feature of conversation Dad engaged in with us, but even with my children. My youngest is still in a fight with him about what color apples are. Dad would take me to the zoo, one of my favorite places, as he was fond of all kinds of animals. We had many types of pets in the house all the years I was growing up. I really think that's why my sister and I have such a love for animals. My mom would talk to the animals in very silly voices, and my dad would whistle tunes. My own children inherited Dad's love for animals. Dad loved to talk, and he could talk about anything. He had a great sense of humor, and he revered old comedians and radio shows. He was always reading about and learning new things. He read the encyclopedias with me. He shared a fondness for the Cubs with me, and even though I'm now a Detroiter and not a sports fan, but supposed to be a Tiger fan, the Cubs and going to Cub games with my dad and sitting in the dugout, right by the dugout, are still very special to me. Dad was passionate about music, and although never appreciated my love of Jim Morrison and the Doors as a teen, he used to say, "It's so loud, turn it down." But he embraced all genres of music, and he sang many types of songs. When I was little, my dad taught me all the instruments in the orchestra. As we listened to the record of Peter and the Wolf, he played it over and over for me. He later took me to the symphony to see and to hear the beauty of the instruments playing together to create the sounds he shared with me. I remember the night of my high school graduation when I had a few of my friends over at the house. Dad brought out all of his old records on the Victrola, and he sang to us. As a teenager, it was a bit embarrassing, but as an adult, I have considered this a humorous and pleasant memory, especially as my children also share Dad's love of music and singing. My sister and I would come home from day school with songs, and he always sang them with us. For those of you who knew him at Park Plaza, and I hope to meet all of you, where he lived recently, he was asked to sing many times and performed with Lindsay, the music director. He could sing not only in English, but in Yiddish and Spanish. My dad introduced my mother to many things, but most importantly, to live as Orthodox Jews. He davened every single day. He attended Daf Yomi classes. He completed the 7-year cycle of the Daf, a feat of which he was exceedingly proud. He was proud of his ability to live an Orthodox life, and he and my mother sacrificed a lot to send my sister Michelle and I to Jewish day schools from pre-K through the 12th grade. He was a dutiful son to his father-in-law, who lived with us. And when he passed away, Dad said Kaddish for him, just as my husband will now say Kaddish for his father-in-law, my father. How appropriate then that in this parsha this week, B'Shalach, B'nai Yisrael sing when they cross the Red Sea onto dry land. In fact, this Shabbos is known as Shabbos Shira, the Shabbos of song. There is a strong connection between music and the neshama, the soul, which is why the davening is comprised of so many inspirational melodies. And for Dad, his skill and love of participating and even leading the davening was so very special for him. Certainly music and faith were perfect concepts to describe my father. When we said goodbye to Dad this week, we all sang Shalom Aleichem to him as a group. Dad, you are blessed with 2 daughters. 2 daughters. 3 beautiful grandchildren, and 2 precious great-grandchildren. And when they sing or dance to some of your favorites, like I Have a Little Dreidel, I don't sing, or Frogs on Paro's Head, or Dip the Apples in the Honey, we will continue to remember you and how it was you who were instrumental in making your Jewish family what and who we are today. And also, true to Dad's style, have a great big meal and always get the biggest piece. We will miss you, Dad. Label Ben David, your neshama should have an aliyah.
Thank you so much, Robin, for those beautiful and stirring words. We now call upon the grandchildren to come up.
We've prepared just a few short words to say about our grandpa. If you know our grandpa, he was the most enthusiastic, I don't cry, so this is weird, genuine supporter of us, and really made us feel like we were capable of anything in the world, and he was serious about it. When I was first getting interested in science, he got me a full high school chemistry set when I was in 2nd grade. We would tell him about something as small as getting an A on a math quiz, and he reacted like we were going to be the next Einstein. And he bragged all about it. Every time Grandpa would call us on the phone, he would ask what we wanted to be when we grew up. And we were just laughing yesterday about the fact that if we said we wanted to be an astronaut, Grandpa would have told us he knew someone at NASA, would order us countless books on the topic, and would ask us genuinely about it at every next phone call for years. Even though we would eventually forget about whatever childhood ambition it was, he never did. His work ethic was unmatched, and he taught us to work hard, but also to dream big.
We will always remember his support and tremendous, as he would say, enthusiasm for us. Another trait we all inherited from Grandpa was his musicality and love of singing. From his renditions of America the Beautiful to You Are My Sunshine, we have so many songs that will remind us of him.
She's not a crier
I don't
either.
cry. I don't know what it is.
It's okay.
Not only was he a great singer, as many at Park Plaza know, but he was a performer all of his life. And we were all on stage growing up following in his footsteps. Kip was a tree once. He was full of words of wisdom. And Grandpa, I will try my best to eat all the colors of the rainbow, like you insist. Grandpa, thank you for all of your laughs and your overwhelming sense of humor. We all get it from you. He would also say, to him for us, and would always make sure we knew what the parsha was every week. He also called us by our Hebrew names first. We would always get mail for Hindachava, Tova Abigail, and Daniel Aaron. He had so much emunah and a strong spiritual connection to Hashem, and we all saw how important his Judaism was to him. And we will all carry that with us forever.
So we didn't go over each other's speeches, but hit on a lot of things that I was going to say. Sorry, I have a bit of a cold. I once had Grandpa and I used to speak a lot of times the last few years. I've been in yeshiva, and he would always ask me, what did the rabbi say? What was the most impactful thing you heard? And I remember talking to him about a concept that one of my teachers in Yerushalayim told me, that you can either live in Olam Haza, you can either live in this world, or you can live in Olam Hapela. Looking at the world like everything is amazing, everything is wonderful. And I don't think anybody lived that. Like my grandpa. Everything was tremendous. Everything was wonderful. Everything was overwhelming. It could be nothing. It could be, the Cubs won 4-3. It was overwhelming. And he meant it. Everything was amazing. The name Label, I was thinking about it on the plane here, means a young lion. And I think that Grandpa was someone who he was passionate like a lion about a lot of things. You could get him, he'd get excited. But he had a youth about him that, like a little kid, that everything's so exciting. So he was able to combine those two things in a very beautiful way. People spoke about the Parsha a little bit. I'll say maybe something Grandpa and I, my sister said that every week we would talk about the Parsha from when we were 3 or 4. We didn't have to know what the Sedra was. And he used to have to tell him something on the Parsha. And I remember last year, around this time, Parshas B'Shalach, we were on the phone. And I told him an idea from the Degel Machne Ephraim that he really liked. That when the Bnei Yisrael get the man, so they say manhu, lo yidei mahu, manhu. So it's the same letters as Amunah. That Dagan Ephraim says that everything was Emunah. They only came because of the Emunah. And there wasn't many people in the world that had Emunah like my grandpa. Like Rabbi Turin said, he really believed in Mashiach. He believed in his way. Not because he thought it was right, because he learned, he understood, he went through it himself. No one just had to tell him. He went through the whole. He had to learn it inside and out before he could decide that it was right. He always said Tehillim with us. He was very big on Tehillim. Learning. I remember he would get so excited. We would talk about the Gemara that I was learning or whatever. He'd say, I remember that. And he would get so excited. Something about a cow. He would get really excited. Like my sister said, he was big on emphasizing our Hebrew names. I don't think he ever called me Kip. Maybe once or twice. There was something wrong, probably. It was always Daniel Harm. Nobody calls me that. He was big on emphasizing our Yiddishkeit. That's something he sacrificed a lot for. And he believed in it a lot. I hope that we can continue that. Make him proud. He was very passionate about Israel. He used to say, Israel's not what it's supposed to be. You got to make it better. He was very big on that. He was very excited when I was learning in Israel, Jerusalem. He had a very deep desire to come. And now living in Jerusalem, he was so proud. I remember, I talked about singing a little bit, but I remember maybe 5, 6 years ago already, I was in the army in Israel, and I was having a hard time in training at some point, and I called my grandpa, and he said, let's sing a song. I didn't even tell him I was having a hard time. It was like October. He started singing Ma'us Sor, Hanukkah songs. But I remember just singing with him, and I'm in front of, my commander and all these people. And we're singing Ma'us Sor. I wasn't embarrassed, because I was just proud of my grandpa. Everyone joined in. From then on, everyone just called him Grandpa when we called. They'd be excited to speak to Grandpa. Say one last thing on the Parsha. Grandpa used to emphasize that a lot. When B'nai Yisrael sing the Shir Sayam, so it starts with Az Yoshir. Az meaning it's a future sense. And as much as Grandpa was singing in this world, I know he's singing a lot more in the next. Finally back with his wife. Just want to ask for Mechila, on behalf of me and my sisters. Anytime we didn't call enough, could have been more respectful. Anything we may have done. I know Grandpa would have wanted for us to just keep being happy, for praying. Just to emphasize that. Enjoy life. And that's what I'm going to learn from my grandpa. A person who was passionate about the world, had a youth, had excitement about him, and a deep connection to Yiddishkeit, to Torah and mitzvahs, and to his family. I hope we make you proud.
hope listening to everything today, we've all got a sense of this wonderful person, this wonderful mensch. And he was a true mensch. He was a refined, good, healthy, happy, good person. And we can reflect, and we can memorialize, and we can take this time to give tribute and honor to a special, special person, a special Jew, a special family man, someone who raised daughters, who raised people, who affected Jews, who touched people's lives, who loved life and loved people. Leonard was born, as we said, on March 28th, 1935, which was the 24th day of Adar Beis. It was the second Adar. It was just after Purim, going into Pesach. It's a time of simcha for the Jewish people, a time of happiness, a time of redemption, a time of miracles. And his life was a miracle. The things he was able to do, the people he was able to touch, the ways he was able to go about, the amount of years he lived. You know, we live in a time when people are living longer, so some people live to 100, 95, 105, but 89 years is an incredible achievement. And he was so close to his 90th birthday. And Michelle would talk to me about how wonderful he was going to make a huge party at Park Plaza. We would have all celebrated. He was a bit of a rock star at Park Plaza. He was celebrated and loved and part of the fabric of life and a character and a friend to so many. He's grew up a wonderful family, as we've heard, wonderful daughters, wonderful grandchildren, to Helene and Matthew, Daniel Aaron and Shayna, Kip, Lexi Alexandra, and a great-grandfather to Malka Bracha and Leah Marlowe. May the family continue to grow and prosper and only see nachas from each other and goodness and continue to make their mark on the Jewish people and on the Jewish story. He was married to his dear Helen for many years, a wonderful marriage. He was a true Chicagoan, born on the West Side, went to Marshall High School, was part of the community there, was part of B'nai Ruvain when it was still there. Eventually the family moved to East Rogers Park and eventually West Rogers Park. There was Anshe Lubavitch, as we mentioned, there was Yeshurun, there was the Kollel, there were so many shuls, there was Rabbi Doug or Menorah. He got around. He was great at selling people. As you could hear from all the things that we've said and all the words that have been communicated, he was someone with enthusiasm, someone with a passion, someone with a mission. So it's not surprising that he was great in sales. He touched people. He said, you want to advertise here. You want to be in the Sentinel. You want to have your ad here. He worked for Singer Sewing Machines. You want to be involved. You want to sell this product. You know, he probably could sell anything to anybody. He was persuasive. He was someone you mentioned, you knew, you didn't take for granted. He made an impression. He was someone who touched people. As we said, he was a big learner. He loved to learn. Many people have told me over the years that they could talk to him about anything. You bring up a subject, and Lenny had something to say about it. I remember this, I remember that. Oh, I did that once, I saw this once. You know, that's what happens when you read the encyclopedia. You know something about everybody. You know something about everything. And it was like that with his Yiddishkeit too. He loved to learn Chassidus. He loved to learn Daf Yomi and Gemara. He finished Shas. He was so proud of finishing Shas. He loved to learn with everybody. He learned at this place and that place, took classes morning, night. He was a lifelong learner. And of course, he loved music. He was so proud. He was so proud of his family. He loved his music. He loved to sing. We have a musical oneg on Friday afternoons before Shabbat for those people who aren't going to stay up till Shabbat and want to bring in Shabbos and enjoy the Shabbos songs before it's really Shabbos. And he would come to the oneg, and before long, he was leading the oneg. I was trying to lead up there with the microphone, and he was drowning me out. And it was wonderful because I had somebody who could go toe-to-toe with him, and his voice was louder than anybody else's, and we loved it. We loved when he would come and lead the oneg. He was curious about things. He would tell you all of his escapades and accolades. Oh, I daven there, and I daven there, and I've been there, and I learned there, and I learned with everybody. I learned this, I learned that. And he wasn't saying it to brag. He was saying it because he was so proud of his accomplishments. And we have to take that message and that lesson to say, what have I done? What can I give myself a pat on the back? What can I say? I've done good. I've helped. I've made a difference. I've talked to somebody. I've touched somebody. I've learned something. And not to take the small things for granted. We heard how he didn't take the little second grade or third grade tests for granted. You got an A, you got 100, you're wonderful. Because everything is an accomplishment. Don't take anything for granted. Love life. Love people. Love the Jewish people. Love your world. Parshas B'Shalach always falls out the week before Tu B'Shvat, the week before the new year for the trees. And this week, on Thursday, will be Tu B'Shvat. And we celebrate the trees. And there's two thoughts that I would say we have to celebrate about Lenny and the trees. The Pasuk tells us, Ki ha'adam eitz hasadeh, that a person is like a tree in the field. And he was like a tree. He had deep roots in tradition, deep roots in history, deep roots in Chicago. And he gave that to his family. And he gave that to others. And he sprouted beautiful leaves, and he sprouted beautiful fruit. And he was that oasis, that place that was refreshing. When you met him, you felt good. When you got to know him, you felt touched. Rav Chaim Vital, in the Kabbalistic writings, says there are different types of fruits that we have on Tu B'Shvat. There are different types of fruits that God gave us in this world. Some fruits are very hard on the outside, and you have to break through that hard shell to get to the fruit. So you have a coconut, and a coconut is not edible from the outside. You've got to break through the coconut. You've got to get through until you can have the fruit. Even a banana, you can't eat the peel. You've got to peel it and get rid of that layer, and then you can get to the good stuff. Some people are hard. They're not so easy to approach. They're not so easy to connect with. And eventually, if you get through that hard layer, there's something good there. Other people are just the opposite. You get them, but you don't get them fully. You get them superficially. It's like a fruit that has a hard pit in the center. You can only get so far. An avocado or an olive has a hard pit in the center. You can get to the outer layer, that's good, but you can't get inside. You can't really touch them in their inner personality. They're closed off. They're that hard pit. But then Rav Chaim Vital says there are some fruits that are very special. They're soft on the outside, and they're soft on the inside. They're like a grape. And he'll tell you all the colors of the grapes. I don't have to relate them. But grapes are sweet and soft on the outside and soft on the inside. Lenny, Label Ben David, was a grape Jew. He was like a grape. He was soft on the outside and soft on the inside. He was a wonderful, beautiful person. He lived a long, full life. He touched many. He did tremendous things. He was talented. He was special. He was funny. He had a heart like a lion. And he will be missed so much. I want to end by just giving recognition to all those who loved him, who cared for him, all his good friends in Park Plaza, all of his aides, to Maria, who did an amazing job with him, to Sam and Michelle, who showed him so much care these last few years, so much kibbud av, so much honor for father. I think, Michelle, you were at Park Plaza basically every day of the week. Maybe not Shabbos, but every day of the week. And people knew you, became a friend to so many, and are a friend to so many, because you showed so much care for your father. And that love never goes away. We all take from this the good lessons and the good messages and the good feelings and the memories of a special Jew, a special person, a person who touched the world, who changed the world, who made us all more special. And may we live and love in the ways that he loved and he cherished and he made special. Yehi Zichro Baruch, may his memory be a blessing for all of us. May God wipe away tears as the Mashiach and the Gula come speedily in our days. We'll now have a Kel Mali prayer. We'd ask you to rise for that and rise for the Kaddish. El Mali Rachamim Shochen Mamromim Hamsem Nuchon Nechona Tachas Kanfei Ashchina B'malas Kedoshim Torah Gezor Harki Amazirim Nishmas Label Ben David Shalach Le'olamo Bevush mishpalim balaskaris nishmaso. Began Eden te menuchaso. Lechein balarachamim yasireh b'seis k'nafav le'olamim. B'tzor achayim es nishmaso. Adonai unachalaso. V'yanuach b'shalom mishkava v'nomar. Amen. God, full of mercy, who dwells on high, grant fitting rest beneath the protective wings of the divine presence, where the soul of the lofty and pure ones, whose radiance is like that of the heaven, reside, to the soul of Label, the son of David, who has gone to his world. Insofar as we will make charities and pray for his merit and his soul in Gan Eden, may it be his resting place. For this reason, may the ever-merciful one shelter the deceased under his protective wings forever, and may he bind his soul in lasting life, for the Lord will surely be his benefactor, so that he can rest peace in his allotted place. And let us say, Amen. We end with the mourner's Kaddish recited by the family. Yiskadav, Yiskadash, Shmei Rabbah, Yamad, Yivrach, Yerusei, V'yamlich, Machusei, V'chayichon, V'yamichon, Chayed, Chobeis Yisrael, Agalav, Izman, Kariv, Imru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah, V'rach, L'am, V'yamayah, V'sparach, V'shtabach, V'sparar, V'shamam, V'snasei, Tzedar, V'salah, V'salah, Shemit, K'shah, B'richu, Elam in kol berchasa v'shirasa, tush b'chasa v'nechamasa, d'amiram b'yama v'imru, amen. Yehei shlom rabba min shemaya v'chayim oine v'akol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom rama v'yaseh shalom aleinu v'akol Yisrael v'imru, amen.
Friends, this concludes our service here at the chapel. Interment will take place immediately at the family plot at West Lawn Cemetery in Norwich. The family will be sitting Shiva Park Plaza at room 504, Saturday evening through Wednesday. The times and the information is available on the folder that you received on the way in. For those who are online, that information is on the funeral home website. Memorial contributions in Mr. Drucker's memory can be made to the Chicago Mitzvah Campaign or to the charity of your choice. For those who wish to join the family in procession, one will be forming just outside our parking lot. While in procession, please make sure you obtain an orange funeral safety sticker, which can be placed on the inside portion of your windshield. For an additional measure of safety, we're going to be placing magnetic flags on the rooftop portions of your vehicles. While in procession, please make sure your bright lights and hazard lights are on at all times. Please drive as closely to the car in front of you as safety permits. Please avoid talking on your cellular device while en route to the cemetery. And use your horn liberally, especially as we go through intersections, please. This time I'm going to ask everyone to please rise, and I'm going to ask some of the grandchildren to step forward to help serve as pallbearers as we escort the casket from the chapel along with the clergy and the family.